Welcome to the Chase Merrell Podcast. I am your host, Chase Merrell, and we are all about helping people get freed up from what's holding them back so they can build up who they were made to be. On today's episode, I have my father-in-law, Kelly Dulaney, with me. This man is an absolute gift. I feel so blessed to get to have the kind of relationship that I have with him. Kelly is one of the most encouraging people I've ever met in my life. In fact, I guarantee you, if you've met him, you've been encouraged by him. We talk about the moment, or should I say moments, that I asked for his blessing to marry his daughter, life centered on Jesus, how to have healthy relationships, and so much more. If you want to help us continue to make an impact with this podcast week in and week out, consider joining our new Patreon community. For as little as a cup of coffee a month, you can be a part of helping us get the message and mission of the podcast out to more people more effectively. This is a way that we can come together as a community, and you'll get access to behind the scenes stuff, additional resources and content, and so much more for just as little as $5 a month. You can head over to chasemerrell.com and click Patreon to jump in and get started. Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by Frontline Coffee Co. Delicious, bold, and expertly roasted small batch coffee for the everyday American. Frontline is not just about coffee. They're about supporting responders on the front lines, courageously caring for the rest of us. With every Frontline purchase, a percentage goes to supporting the brave men and women who are doing just that. Head over to frontlinecoffeeco.com and use promo code FREEDUP. That's FREEDUP, all one word, FREEDUP, to get 15% off your purchase. Now let's jump into today's conversation. Well, here we go.
Yeah.
I've got my father-in-law, Kelly Dulaney, here today with me on the podcast. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, Chase.
Man,
what a blessing.
This is so,
what a treat.
Yeah, and you're in person, too. Like the fact that, obviously you live in California and you're visiting and spending some time with us, but to get to be able to do this in person, it's just such a joy. Such a joy. And, when I think about the podcast being what it is, how we've had several people part of this that have been impacting my life. That's why we're doing it. 52 people that have made an impact in my life. You are an obvious one of those people based on the marital relationship of getting to marry your one and only daughter, Holly Ann.
Yeah.
But I just can't wait to share part of this relationship and this journey with people today. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. What an honor.
Yeah. So just jumping in for a moment, okay? Outside of the fact that you're my father-in-law, will you give people that are listening or watching a little snapshot just with who you are, where you're at in the season of your life, so that people can know, okay, like who are we listening to?
Sure. Well, thank you. Great. So what a treat to have my son-in-law here and just be able to talk to you and just spend time doing this and hopefully have an impact. So, I'll probably start off with, I was born in a Presbyterian household. So my father's a pastor. Yeah. And one of the greatest things I think we ever experienced was the idea that my parents took us to church, right? Yeah. So it was just part of our fabric of our life. We did that. We stayed close to that. We did youth camps. And so what my background is and who I am today, I really owe to my parents and my grandparents and just the examples that I had in front of us that we did church. Yeah. And we did, we believed in Jesus and God and the Trinity. So it's a real big deal to have that as a foundation in our lives. So that's kind of where I came from. And so that's really a great opportunity to just have that in my life. Yeah. Not everybody gets that. Yeah. And so at 12, I received the Lord. Remember being at church, exactly what had happened. And so I was wondering what time in my life would that happen? Started at 12. So from that time on, my journey began, right? Of just really understanding what it is to continue to transform and draw closer. Yeah. Who I am today is, man, I got just so many things to be thankful for. That's who I am. I'm just thankful. Just no question. It starts off with, married a wonderful wife, Tanya. Yeah. So I got a great wife and just great family.
How many years have you guys been married?
For 33 years now. So so about almost as old as you are. So it's pretty cool. And we're going on 35 coming up here soon. So get that right, actually. She'll know. Yeah. So that's wonderful. And that's just really the foundation to who we are. Just got an incredible family there. And it's great to have such great in-laws too, right? So that really makes a difference to us, core value. Yeah. And to be able that relationship on that side, both sides, are very important to us. So I'm a believer, absolutely believer in Jesus Christ. Love that. It's the foundation of what we do.
Yeah.
We are so just focused on making sure that we're doing the right things and following the Lord's will. That is kind of our prayer every day, is just do the Lord's will, and God shows favor on those things. And so we are involved in like small groups at our church, to that in our neighborhood. That's a big thing what we do.
Yeah.
And so there's so much activity that takes place around that area that kind of shapes us who we are in our daily lives, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot more there. I mean, it's a lot more to what's going on. But
and it's hard to in a snapshot. It's hard to fully encompass, all of that stuff that really matters. But so here's, one of the things that I think, being here, just even doing this right now with you, right, having a father-in-law and a son-in-law, be able to have the kind of conversation that we can have or we will have today.
Yeah.
I would say is not very common because of just the dynamics of families and lives. And, I think about a lot of the people that I know, even that might, from different parents and grandparents and et cetera, like there's just not a ton of really, really healthy, thriving generationally relationships between like a father-in-law and a son-in-law, or, all of the different options, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, those kind of things there. And I feel so privileged to get to sit here and be like, I don't have to fake anything here. Like we're better than we are. We are the way that the amount of respect that I have for you, the amount of love that I have for you, the experiences that we've already gotten to have in our lives together in a relationship. Like I feel like I've already been filled up and overflowing. Like I've already been more than blessed than I should be. And
that's two of us.
Yeah.
It's two of us.
And so that's what's so exciting to me, is that like, I'm not having to, we have a good relationship, and it's so gets to just be like, what a blessing. And I know that it's not necessarily that way for everybody. And so that's something that I'm really thankful for. So I would love to dive into the where it started.
Yeah.
For a moment, just like for a second, because some of the people know Holly and I's journey of our relationship, and then our marriage and our family, but not all of them have that perspective from the dad. Or the dad and mom representing, you and Tanya.
Right.
And obviously Sean's a part of this as well, as Holly's younger brother, Sean. 5 years. Is he 5 years younger than Holly?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Correct.
So the Dulaney family, right? Yep. I got introduced to the Dulaney family, through that winter camp where Holly and I met back in 2004, if I did all the math right. 2004, 2005. But like, will you give us a snapshot of, I don't know, what do you even remember from how things had started to where eventually Holly and I became friends and began to date? And we'll not unpack the whole story, but I just know I've had people be like, I wonder, like, how do you have this kind of relationship with your father-in-law when you were like trying to pursue his daughter at like 8th and 9th grade, and then all of our journey that we've had up to this point. So like, what do you remember from that? And just anything in that space, I think would be cool.
As a matter of fact, you make me smile because you're bringing up some great memories. I mean, just really some fun stuff. But it goes back to Holly, right? It's our daughter is amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
she is.
The choices she makes, and that's what it is. It's about choice. Matter of fact, choice. We're talking about relationship here. It is a choice to do that. It's a choice to engage. It's a blessing to have that. And if you don't, you're losing out on it. Yeah. You are our family. Yeah. You are our son, right? Yeah. And I hope every father-in-law looks at it that way. Yeah. Every parent looks at it that way, that you are a part of our family. You're married into it.
Yeah.
You've been a blessing to us because you're a blessing to our daughter, right? So, but going back to the story, I think the things I do remember the most is, there's no question, Holly, we're so proud of, was attending church, right?
Yeah.
So let me tell you something. If anybody can hear this, take your kids to church. Right, no matter where you're at in your life, get them to youth club.
Yeah.
Because I believe that's where transformation, that's where the core starts. So whatever it is, that foundation, Chase, you're sitting here because of that. Totally. Your parents, they're amazing. All right.
Yeah.
It's so incredible that your parents did the right thing.
Yeah. And
your grandma and your grandpa, right? So they did the right decision. Get them to church. And Holly was at church, and that's where it all started.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where the stories all begin.
Right.
Is she's there. She's in that environment.
Right.
She knows, and she's to her core. I just love her. She cherished her that she loved Jesus ever since. She's always has.
Yep.
And that is amazing.
Yeah.
So that's the testimony here. Is she has always enjoyed Jesus.
Yeah.
And doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Right. So, and Holly's so good at that. She's very loyal that way. She's legalistic that way too, a little bit too. Sure. And those are good things. Those are great traits in her.
Yeah.
So I remember that she definitely is. I think it became the thing that we knew of you most is when you hung out with her and Natalie together. That's kind of the three, right? Yeah. So I know that there's this friendship that took place, right?
Yep.
And we saw that as safe.
Yeah.
And you were younger, right?
Yeah.
So that was a younger thing. So we know you're younger, right? You're in junior high when Holly's in high school.
Yeah. Eighth grade, that winter camp, church youth kind of camp we went to during the winter of that. My 8th grade year, in middle school, was when I was introduced to her.
Right.
And then was like, I mean, this girl is beautiful. She loves Jesus. Like, I want to pursue her. But, at 13, there's not a lot you can bring to the table, yet. And so I remember, but also like I shot my shots, like whether it was phone calls or, trying to figure out a way to get more around her in general, that was part of what that pursuit happened. But I just remember like as a dad, right? Like you and Tanya both just had such a, like, now that I have 2 daughters, there's this sense of like, I mean, I don't want anything in the world to come close to hurting them. Right. I want to protect them. And if you even, if there's even the chance, there's this piece of me that's like, I'll destroy.
Right.
But the way that you allowed me to pursue, even from a young, maybe not, responsible enough, or you didn't just fully shut me down of friendship. You didn't just completely like go, don't talk to it. It was I don't know how to describe it, but man, you didn't just see me as the threat to your daughter to pull the love away from her. It was like you saw me as an opportunity to have a relationship, whether I was going to be in the picture in the future or not. And I don't know.
I love it.
That, and that was part of that's one of the things that, like, that's Kelly Dulaney. Like how can we have a relational connection here? And I'll just never forget that in my middle school, high school years of pursuing Holly periodically to how I didn't look at you as this, like, you're too young, you're to get out of, it was like, oh, Chase, we can have a friendship, and I will keep my daughter protected and safe as we develop a relationship. Right. And I so respect that, because I think it's such a healthy way to do that. And I think you guys just did a great job, but then, so started pursuing her more officially, right after she went to Bible college for a couple years, came home for a spring break, and at that point we had become really good friends. But I didn't like her in that way anymore. At that point, we had established great friendship, but then I found out she had been actually liking me in that way, while she's away at college, and. Long story short to that, some people know that story. We ended up started dating and courting and pursuing each other more officially. And I remember two conversations. Well, there's a lot more to this, but I remember having a conversation with you. Both were at coffee shops. One was I think it was at It's a Grind in Roseville. I don't know if you may not even remember, but and that was I wanted your blessing to pursue her in dating. And just the way you received that allowed me to share, asked me some good questions, challenged me with really considering the things that mattered the most, even in my dating pursuit. I'll never forget that conversation. And, you're just an incredible dad, man. The way you love your kids and Holly in this situation, like I think I wanted to pursue her even more for the way I was experiencing how her dad loved her and cared for her. From that initial, like, can I date your daughter conversation?
Sure.
Which then eventually led to the, can I marry your daughter conversation?
Right. Sure.
I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
Okay.
No, trust me. That's all good. Yep.
Starbucks. Yep. I think that one.
Yep.
But then you said, hold on, you need to kind of come back and we need to have Tanya and I want to have this conversation together with you. Right. Which at that point was the first moment I was like, oh no, like this could be a no right now.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
Do you remember what you guys did? in that moment when we came over to your house?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead. You remind me.
Well, part of what it just fed that fear.
What you remember.
Yeah. Part of it fed that fear was like, hey, appreciate Chase, love, this conversation. Again, he asked me more great questions. And this was almost a year of us dating.
Mm-hmm.
We were still pretty young at that point when I had asked you. I think I had just turned 20. No. Yeah, I would have just turned 20.
Sounds right.
Still pretty young. In ministry.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was even still working at Chick-fil-A part-time.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those, like, how you can provide, all those things were good in there. But you said, hey, Tanya and I want to have this conversation together and have you have this. So I remember you guys inviting me over not too long after that, ask you to marry your daughter conversation. And you had a folder or a manila envelope. You remembering now?
Yeah, I think Tony had it probably.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, she did.
Same thing my mother-in-law did to me.
Yes. Okay. So, and I don't know how she presented it, but she said, hey, here's our response. Like, here's our answer to your question. And it, she slid the folder or the paper over.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember exactly what it said, but it was something to the effect of like, no, or
it was
not,
no.
Yeah, just not going to happen right now.
Right.
Or, thank you, but no, thank you. Something like that. And I just remember going like, what is this?
Yes.
Like, why didn't he just give me the no at Starbucks? Why didn't he make me come all the way over to the house and have him and Tanya tell me? And then she flipped it over and it was a, absolutely yes, and I'll just never forget that moment and getting to hug and celebrate with you guys. Yeah. So
here's the core to this is we prayed for years, right, when Holly was young, that she would have the right guy in her life, right? That's it.
Right.
Marry the Christian guy, the guy that God wanted, right? So we put all this trust in God.
Right.
So, but the other thing is we put the trust in Holly. So you asked me where and why do we allow any of this or conversation to take place or you guys to get together? Because we just trusted Holly's decision, right? Because we knew she was brought up right? She's raised in the way she should be. And she made great choices. And so when we were aware of you and we knew you were attending church, and if Holly saw your heart right? If she saw that into you and she wanted to, to go ahead and start dating and everything else, we just were saying, well, there you go. Try it. Test drive that. See who Chase is, right?
Yeah.
See if that's who you want. It's not who we wanted, right? As a son-in-law. It's who Holly was going to know that that's the right person.
Yeah.
So that's what it gets down to is we prayed for her for years for the right person.
Yeah.
And here we are today.
Yeah.
And we know God answers prayers so wonderfully, right?
Yeah.
Because you are the right person for Holly.
Yeah.
You're the right person for our family, the right person for your kids, right? So that's we're so proud of that, right?
Yeah.
It's an honor to be here for that just idea, to even be sitting here knowing that you've come where you've come from with the dreams that you've had, and we love that about you, right? You're a dreamer. You just goal-oriented. I mean, you were part of your Christian club at school, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal.
Right.
To stand up and to hear the stories from Chase Merrell where he took on people and people knew you're the Christian at school. That was an easy road, right?
Yeah.
You had some tough days.
For sure.
And so you battled through that. You made it through that.
Yeah.
And we just thought that, man, look at that fabric that he has in him. So there's some things that we knew of you, your character and your heart. And we let Holly, through Holly, she told us, this is starting to look like the guy. Yeah. And there was never always a perfect day, right?
Sure.
So there were some times like, I'm not quite sure about this, not quite sure about that.
Sure.
But it was cute because like with the way you pursued her, I mean and so those are the kind of things that I just enjoyed watching take place. Was you and your heart for her, right?
Yeah.
So and to see what you did, because when you wanted something, you do it, and that's you, right? You always are that way.
Yeah,
and it's great.
Yeah, no, for
how you get here, right?
Sure.
I mean, you could tell the story about there's a park near our house, right? And I love the story.
I know. I kind of left.
That's what made me smile. That one, and there's one more.
I left out some of those details of how I pursued as a 8th and 9th grader. For some of those, but yes, when I want something, man, it's a lot to stop that pursuit to not, or to give up on it.
Right.
So then this is one of the things I know for me, that when I think about how Holly and I are, we're October of this year, we'll be celebrating 11 years of being married. Right. We do have 4 kids, so much of just God's faithfulness and blessings in our lives. but it almost wasn't to be. That season where we were engaged, that everything we just talked about, asking for your guys' blessing, you guys giving it, from that point forward, about, I think it was almost, 6 months or so, maybe 4 or 5 months, as we began to, do that engagement, courting, and pursuit, there was this reality where things just kind of kept more and more to the surface that, man, maybe we're not ready. Maybe there's just too many differences that are going to be challenging or more incompatible than maybe we once were thinking, as the pressure of marriage and future are all beginning to collide. And so that ended up ultimately, there's lots of those factors, but ended up leading to Holly and I breaking up and breaking off our engagement.
Yes.
And that was, to this day for both of us, right? And I'm part of where I'm going is from your seat. Probably one of the more difficult experiences we've ever experienced in our lives, for understandable reasons. But part of where I'm wanting to kind of hear from your perspective, because of what I ultimately God restored and brought back together within his timing in a way that was exactly what he wanted, I believe, to do now. Again, I definitely could have been maybe a different way to get there. But I see the sovereignty of God in all of it because of what that break allowed to happen. But part of what I remember about that, right, was how much you'd loved me up to that point. And already, and because I'd asked for your blessing, like that's a super sacred thing. Prayerfully, that's only one time that you're ever going to get that ask from one person.
That's right.
Right.
And you are the only one person. And
yes,
we were proud of that.
Right. So. And so to have the moment where that ask, if you will, and the ask to literally my ask to her to have her hand in marriage, was beginning to dissolve in when we broke up, so now I'm thinking, okay, all of this love that I had been receiving and having from Kelly Dulaney from these last 10 years of being a 13-year-old all the way to where I am now at 20, so 7-8 years. Now I'm just saying goodbye to all that because of the way I'm hurting his daughter by breaking up our engagement. And although she at that time felt like, maybe we're going to get back together, I remember very quickly feeling like, I think we're done. I don't think that, and probably some of it was like, if I'm going to break up an engagement in front of the whole world,
yes,
and do this to relationships, there's just no way that fickleness will allow itself to come back into it. I'm not going to go back like that and be that person, which then began to just make my heart, wanted to just press farther away, and I didn't want to lead her on, and all of these things were happening. And so during that period of time, from September to January, was our time of being broken up. You still had moments, at least when I did run into you, where I remember that I'll never forget the moment. Like, I think it was at church or something where you hugged me. It was probably the Sunday after I don't remember where it was, but you hugged me and embraced me with tears streaming down your face. And I thought to myself, how could he be hugging me right now? How could he be giving me any love based on what just happened to his daughter and the pain and stuff I know he's watching her walk through? And I just remember being like, I don't deserve this. I feel like he should, have a gun out, being like, get away. But it was so counter what I was expecting.
Wow.
And now on the other side later, obviously all of that, the way that the Lord, I look back on the way that you loved me when I was probably the most unlovable to you, should have been maybe. And I just go, how profound that was. And probably how much even the way you responded as a representative of your family, opened up even more of my heart to the seeds of healing that God wanted to do in Holly and I's relationship. And I think it was bigger than I or you might even realize. And so, but would you give us a perspective from that moment and that season for you, from a dad walking through that?
Yeah. So I think a couple things to piggyback on what you're saying is there's God's timing, right? And so sometimes I've learned in life that we have desires for certain things, right? We want them. Like sometimes I'll get a bug like I'm ready to move, right?
Sure.
And I'm just ready to go, ready to move. There's something bothering me. I got a tickle. And we have to pray about those things. I always bounce it off Tanya. I say, here's what I'm feeling. And she's like, is this right? Is it just what's stirring in you, right?
Yeah.
So many times that comes up in our lives. And so we sometimes will get these things that we feel. We just need to affirm those, right? We need to get those affirmed. And sometimes we jump on them and go with them, and we find out it doesn't work right? We're ahead of it, right? We're ahead of God's will, right? And so maybe prophetically we would get some things in our mind like, that's supposed to happen. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
And so we learn from those examples that sometimes they can get a little ahead of us. And so that can happen. And so I think I saw that happen kind of in your relationship to where you knew Holly was who you wanted. Yeah. Actually, through prayer, God knew you two were going to be together, right? This is where we're at today. Yeah. So we know this is an answered prayer. So in those steps, we have to be patient in our timing, right? Yeah. And so, but the pursuit, the things that you do, it just depends when you pull the trigger on that, for that gun to do, when you get that shot, right?
Right.
So I think looking back at it, we rolled with it.
Yeah.
See, and the only reason we rolled with it, grace and mercy, the answer to why I hugged you that day, because I remember that.
Yeah.
It's grace and mercy.
Yeah.
God has given it to us every single day the same way, right? So why am I not to be able to give that out? Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I've learned in life is just truly understand we're all broken. Yeah. We all have things going on. So grace and mercy is the greatest gift that we can look at through people and love on them. So I knew that Holly loved you, right? And I knew that breakup was just a time, and the matter of fact, to just watch it work, right? So we weren't going to rush anything. We're just going to let it play out. Yeah. And so that is the beauty behind that whole process, was that we knew we're going to let Holly's heart work at the right time. Yeah. And she loved you, right? Yeah. Oh, and so those things did her, but she knew also to rely on prayer and just work through this, right? And so I think that's the beauty behind it, is you two worked it out together. You made it work, right? Yeah. And God brought you back together again. Yeah. And so I think it's just a matter of sometimes we just do things a little quicker than maybe what God wants us to do. Yeah. And then we look back at it and go, it's supposed to happen, but it's supposed to happen this date, not that date.
The timing is huge.
The timing. And I've done the same thing. So, but as the father now and father-in-law to you, it just was something I just walked through, and not every day is easy for any of us, right? Sure. So when your daughter, your child has to go through something like that, it's about supporting her. And I hope Holly felt supported, right? Yeah. I hope she felt that she knew that we loved her and that we supported the decision being made and whatever took place and however she wanted to go. Because we just trust our kids to make the right decision. Yeah. And they aren't always right. They're little bumpy ones. We step back and watch, right? Sure. With your own kids, you do the same thing.
Totally.
Let them learn, right? You got to let them learn and let them go through the process and the consequences. So, so we watched that take place, and we were so happy it all worked out.
Yeah, 6 months later, right?
Yeah, there's a picture right back here of this wedding date. And, I'll never forget that.
That January 1st, New Year's Day. One day I'll share more of that story probably. But just I was at church leading worship, and there was another gentleman that Holly I knew had liked her throughout her years at Bible college. And then she brought him to church, and that was part of what the Lord ended up being like, you see what I mean, you're about to lose what I've called you to pursue. And anyway, that I remember that being the beginning of the healing time of us restarting a friendship and walking out that process again until from January until May, we got re-engaged that second time, and then got married, in October that year. So, I mean, I think that your comment about trust earlier, even about trusting God and timing, are huge, because I feel like seeing it now, you and Tanya were really prepared for that season of watching maybe your daughter go through a really painful thing in that breakup time, because you were still trusting God, just like you were years before, in trusting God to bring her a manly, a godly man. Right. I was going to say a manly. I hope that I'm a godly man that would So I just think that's really important. As even if parents are listening, or younger parents, just going like trusting God through all of the seasons.
Yes.
when it looks great and when it's not.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you'll be preparing for maybe moments that you're not prepared for by trusting God in those seasons ahead of time. And I think that's totally what I watched you guys and still do, right? To this day, you're still those people, And so, but yes, God kind of got a hold of our hearts, restored that relationship, and then to be married for almost 11 years now is just pretty crazy.
And it's awesome. It really is.
So now you're in grandpa mode.
Yes, love it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an honor.
I loved getting to watch you be a dad as I was in middle school, high school, and into our years of early marriage. With Holly, obviously, just every time we'd come visit or you'd come see us when we had moved away and stuff. The way you'd love her, the way you loved your son, Sean, and engage with him even still to this day, as he's a young adult. But you've come alive to another level as grandpa.
Mr. Fix It, build it, whatever it takes. Just love it.
When I think about
great place to be.
Yeah. When I think about, again, just for the people that don't know you, right? Like, there's times where I describe you and I describe the way that you love us, Holly and I, and you love our kids. And, there are times where people, they go, I know by their facial expressions or by the questions they ask us to follow up that they have a hard time believing it's real. The way that you lean in and engage and pursue your family, and just your selflessness, your sacrifice, your I'll do whatever it takes. And it's not just do whatever it takes and like make people feel like bad about it. Like, yeah, I gave up a lot for this, or I feel obligated. It's like you do whatever it takes, and there's somehow this joy that radiates out of you before, during, and after that process.
Like last night working on the back of the minivan.
I was going to say,
I was high-fiving you every time we fixed something right. It's so cool. We got to work on a car together last night. It was pretty fun.
And we've had a few of those where, I'm not as a car, I guess we should say too, like you are a handyman. You're a mechanic, engineer kind of guy when it comes to wood, anything. You can build a house. You've done it, right? Yes. And cars in and out, like inventing things like that. You're on that scale of like, should have a YouTube channel that has 3 million subscribers but doesn't, probably just because the YouTube age wasn't as prevalent.
Sure.
Whatever.
Right.
That's very much the case. But yeah, man, I mean, to some of those memories I have with you, even the ones from the last couple nights of getting, breaking a car apart, something that's like wrong with one of our vehicles, because again, you want to, it's multiple layers. You want to help us.
Yes.
You want to help us save money. You want to help us, by blessing us is doing things the most cost effective. And that's part of who you are too. Just,
and just put a project in front of me.
And then just a project.
Or find a project for me to do. That's what I enjoy doing.
Yeah. And your ability to problem solve, make adjustments, and not just be frustrated every time something doesn't work. It's like, it's almost just like every time that happens, it's like, okay, well there's just another way. There's just gotta be another way until it gets done, done well and right. And, the last couple nights getting to tear apart, my rear tailgate hatch on my 2003 Honda Odyssey, which was
thanks, Darren and Heather.
Yes.
Great car.
To your
good friends. Yep.
Great friends, neighbors down the road in California, blessed us with a great vehicle. But again, that was even a part of your pursuit, like, hey, I want to help you guys find a cost-effective car. So you got to work on, all these different layers.
Sure.
But I realized 2 nights ago, and then last night, back-to-back nights of working with you, just getting to be with you, right? Solving problems together, getting to get our hands dirty and trying to fix things and maneuver things. And, I just realized like I'm getting to be with Kelly in a place where he's like feeling alive, like in one of those areas where he feels like most alive. Yeah. And I just felt so privileged and overjoyed. It wasn't like for me, it's completely moved because I'm not a fix-it guy. I mean, I've gotten better, but
you're a busy guy.
Yeah, sure. And car stuff especially, like it's just like I'm so novice. So it overwhelms me, and I just feel like the last thing I want to do is try and fail at a car project and do more damage than good. And
you and Sean are identical.
Yeah,
you guys are both. I'm proud of you both because you both have done.
We've grown a lot, but I realize what's happened more than anything is it's the desire to get to, especially with the car stuff, get to spend time with you while we do it. Like, awesome. It's not this like I gotta be out there and help. It's like and I got to have that even the last couple nights. Yeah. But that's because of you. It's how you do it. It's how you engage. And this is the thing I want to highlight for people listening is this quality that you who you are factor here, of just how you, in whatever the circumstances are, choose to make the most of the challenge or the opportunity or the obstacle turning into an opportunity, to make the most of it, and to do it with a joy and a relational connection. I mean, you're always inviting me into the next opportunity to, can you grab this, Chase, or hold this here, or maybe we should try this. And I watched you pass it on to my sons, as you're inviting Weston and Bo and, even Dulaney at times into moments like that. And I just think about how much of the Father's heart that represents, right?
Awesome.
Is God's constantly in our lives, and how much of our lives are just, if people that would follow Jesus, follow God, feel like more than not, it's like gotta have a problem. Can you help me fix it?
Sure.
Right? That's a lot of our relational dynamic.
Sure.
And I think a lot of the times the people have this sense of God that's like he's annoyed with our problem, or he's just feels obligated because he's got it. He has to fix something, or he has to listen, or he has to. And I just see the way I've watched you, whether it's fixing a car or building a Mandalorian, starship or whatever for Weston, out of cardboard, that the way you make people feel in that process, you bring them in, you include them, you make it about the people in the relationship more than just the project or the problem.
There you go. You nailed it. That's exactly right.
And you make the most of it in a way that is bringing life and joy. And I go, man, if that doesn't give you a picture of the Father's heart, and a more helpful picture for people to see that's actually a greater reflection of how God feels when it comes to our lives. I mean, it's been a profound impact for me, because I don't know if I've seen another person that's demonstrated that picture of the Father's heart like I've watched you demonstrate.
Thank you for that. I tell you, it is a choice, right? It's a choice, and I was raised that way too. I was raised by example, right? So do things by example, because the generation has to learn, right? The next generation, whoever it is, the person next to you has to learn skills and life skills.
Sure.
And I think if you miss out on that, it's not good. So I like it when parents make sure that their kids know how to do everything. We were taught to do ironing, to do laundry, to do sewing, right?
Sure.
Some people I actually sewed my own G.I. Joe clothes. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's an oxymoron, right?
That's awesome.
Guy sewing clothes for G.I. Joe.
Right,
But I learned to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, but those are kind of things that I really appreciate that my parents did for me, my grandparents, same thing, is they did the exact same thing. Teach the skills, move the skills to the next generation, or just at a time. But you nailed it. The most important thing is people, right? Yeah. So without people, it's just amazing. So that's kind of what it is. I'm a people person that way, because I really believe that's where our joy comes from.
Yep.
I like to be around people. If there's going to be a party, let's have one.
Yeah,
right. Let's get people together.
Yeah.
But it's never fun to work on stuff by yourself. Matter of fact, this morning, Holly and I were just working on putting down the hardwood floor in the house, right?
Yeah.
But I made sure, Holly, when are you going to be available so you and I can work on it together, right? Because I could have done it, right? Totally. She's got things to do. She's got 4 kids raised and all that kind of stuff. Totally. 2 dogs, right, going on.
Yeah.
Busy household. But, man, there's nothing better than the times that we've done that. And Holly and I have had projects before, and it's just so bonding. And Sean and I have worked on stuff before, and he may get frustrated with something. Like, you're right, we just push through and get it done.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's really important for everybody to know, is people really need to do that. Take time for people.
Yeah.
Set aside the stuff. Now, projects are my excuse. I love them. They drive me, right? But they have to be done with somebody else. That's just really just a benefit to it. To where you can pass it on.
Or and I would say, or even like with, or to really benefit somebody else.
Yes.
Like the things that you've made. I know that there are, homemade scooters that have a motor run by your power drill for Weston and Bo. You may have not had anybody help you with that, but as you're doing it, you're thinking in mind how this is going to bless bring a smile and joy to the people making it for it.
Yeah.
And that I guess that would segue into one more kind of significant piece that I think I want to highlight, that I've been so impacted by still, and see it be so consistent throughout your life from the years that I've known you, and Tanya together. Right. And it is that piece that's like, it's so counter. I would say this. I think that at the older that people get, I think that stereotypically, this is not true for everybody, it's a very large generalization, but I think a lot of people can resonate with what I'm about to say. There's the challenge of not allowing yourself to just get more and more and more not centered, but like it gets harder to be about others.
You be self-absorbed is what you're
thinking. And preferences and whatever, right? And like, the older people get, you see
your
that
comfort level.
Right,
you get your routine going.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I see this with the three generations represented between grandparents, parents, kids, right? That's really where you can start. I think people can see it. What I'm trying to get at is that I have been so encouraged and inspired when I think about what I want to be when I'm a grandpa. When my kids have kids.
Yeah.
The way I feel about you as my father-in-law and they feel about you as their grandpa is that you're not too busy or you're not too unwilling to drop whatever is more important to you, could be, to make them the pursuit of priority, even if it's not for a long time, but it's for a short amount of time. It's just that sense that like, oh no, grandpa and Mimi are here and they are here for us, right? It's not just like, oh, if it works, maybe we'll do this, or maybe next year or whatever that is. I can't say how many people that's their relationship journey with their parents or their grandparents, etc. It's it's all of this. Well, we don't, and again, so many factors are in that. Again, very generalization there, but the way you have just been like, no, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be involved and to make sure that you guys know I love you and I want to be around you. I wish I could be with you more.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's something that's so imprinted on me that I go, man, I refuse to allow my selfish tendencies that could come as I get older, be what I'm known by more than the selfless. Like, I just want to be around you thing. And I just wish more parents and grandparents would cue in on that and say like, man, maybe we should reassess some of the things that we've allowed to become immovable in our life, so that we could, the people that are maybe more valuable, get more of us or get more of the best of us, and not just the convenient pieces. If that makes sense. You guys have you and Tanya have done it so well.
That's a really good thing, because it's about being intentional, right? So it's intentional with your walk with Jesus. You're intentional with what you're doing. You just need to be intentional with it. You're just going to say, hey, they're more important. And actually, there's so much joy that's brought to somebody if they're missing out, if they're really not understanding each stage in life that our grandchildren are in, or our children, right? Yep. And there's joy in watching that. It's painful sometimes because you see them go through some stuff, and it's hard to watch and it's hard to navigate through, and you just pray about it and hope they're safe, right? So you just get them through safely, right? That's the idea, right?
Sure.
But we're going to get through them safely, and we're going to get them the other side, and their heart's going to be right. But thank you for saying that, because I really believe hopefully people do that, carve out that time and understand, be intentional. There's some, like we have another grandparent that we know, and another friend, that they really never go visit their grandkids much, and they miss out. Yeah, they totally miss out. They got the wrong target, the wrong goal going on, right? So it is about the generations. Yep. And if I remember my grandfather, he taught me so much. My grandfather Baker is my hero. Yeah, right, total hero. And so that's my grandpa. Yeah. So I'm going to be a good grandpa. Yeah, you already are. Well, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, you already are. I just need to be a hero. Right. Yeah. And I got just tagging that last piece. You have done, you and Tanya both are just so incredible at the pursuit up and the pursuit down. And I mean, like generationally, like that principle I just talked about isn't just true for you pursuing the younger family. The way I've watched you guys pursue your parents and grandparents as they, were alive in different stages and phases, has been incredible. Like just the honor, the love, the sacrifice, you just getting to see a snapshot of that over the last few years of getting to be a part of your guys' lives the way, with Omi and Opa, the way you pursued for years a relationship with them. Absolutely. You had a great relationship with your father-in-law and your mother-in-law. And I'd like to say something real quick, because Pat is amazing. Yeah, he is.
So Holly, in case people, Holly's grandpa.
Pat, that's right. So he's my father-in-law.
Tanya's, Tanya's dad.
And so going back to the original thing, when I asked for Tanya's hand to get it wet, so to go in and say, "Can I have permission to marry your daughter?" Pat and Bridget, I came to their house, and Pat and Bridget are sitting on the couch. Bridget left the room, right? She completely left the room. I'm like, okay. Like you just said, awkward. How'd this happen, right? Yeah. She comes back with that folder.
Yeah.
And she goes, okay, what do you want to say? And I said, well, I love your daughter and everything else, right? And I said, I know it's she's right. And I love her and everything else. And I'd like to pursue it to get married. And Bridget looked at me, and all she did was flip up that folder, and it had the biggest word N-O on it. No. And you talk about gut-wrenching, right? So same thing. So oh my goodness, really? That's really happening. Yeah. And same thing. And she goes, no, I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I love you. So I like that there's always this little kind of element. And that's why Tanya did that. She know I went through it, and it just,
she was her chance.
It actually just draws you closer, because you're like, okay, allow the humor, allow the life to come into this. Yes. It's doesn't always have to be so serious and tight, right?
Yep.
It's formal process, but it doesn't have to be that serious, right?
Yeah.
So, but Pat, my father-in-law, is just amazing. He is my second hero, right? Because the relationship we had, he was always available. Yeah. He's sturdy. He's knowledgeable. He's wise. And so if I needed something, I'd say, Pat, let me run this by you, right? So I think that relationship, and I tell you what, pursue your in-laws, right? So if anybody's listening to this thing, pursue them. Yeah. Just like anything else, just go to them and ask, and you watch what happens. Yeah. Because most people are introverted sometimes, right? Yep. So it's, you just allow that opportunity to say, you know what? I love you and I respect you. And that is one of the key things I hope people hear is about respect. Yeah. Today, we need more of that everywhere else, and respect within even our children, grandchildren, their generations. And so that's a real key factor right there. That's a characteristic I hope we get better at these days. Yeah. But I respect Pat so much, and I just amazing human being. Been a great dad for me, right? Yeah. So, and Bridget, just the most wonderful mother-in-law ever, right? So, and Marianne is now in that position, and just love her. And she is my mother-in-law. And so Pat and Marianne together, I love them. And my mom is awesome, right? So my dad died 5 years ago, right? So, but we do look up to and love the generation, because they are our family, right? And you can't look away from that. I mean, everybody needs to understand that is your family, married into it or not. It may be not exactly what you want. It may have quirks, right? Whatever it is. But guess what? So do we, right? Yeah. So we're not perfect either. So if we're seeing something wrong in maybe one of our family members, well, we're probably that quirky person too, right? For someone else, right? So I think that there's so much that what you just said is I've learned it through respect and through the generations, that it's only my honor and privilege to just experience it that way. I get so much joy from it. I really do. I mean, working with my son-in-law, so most times I come up here, as you know, you're on a trip, you're on a missions trip, you're out doing some
hunting,
doing something, right? So we've missed those opportunities. But what a blessing it is to just spend time together, right? And do those things and working on something. And you know what? Because sometimes if you're sitting watching a TV show together, you just don't get the same camaraderie, right? So it just doesn't happen the same way. Yeah. So I'm going to encourage people, pick a project.
Such a good idea.
And it really does. It allows you to accomplish something together. It allows you to have something, remnant behind, right? Yeah, totally. So there's remnants, right? We always have a remnant. So when you see something and you did it together, that's your bonding you always experience with somebody, right? So because you go, you have a meal together with them, and it's a really great meal, and you have a memory, right? Yep. You do a trip, you do so of all the things you remember, like they say in timeshares, is go on vacation, because that's when family memories happen, right? Oh yeah. So that's what we got to do. That's why you got to get with your family, spend time with them, and we miss being apart. We really do. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We can't wait for you guys to come down and us go up or come down. So I'm sure people understand that.
Yeah, that's so good. And that whole remnant idea, it's a great picture and a great challenge for people to consider how they can create more opportunities for those remnant things to be left behind as times apart from family, because they are significant. So there's two more things. We'll wrap this up right here. One of them is we'll get to that question that I ask pretty much every episode around the whole why of the podcast, which is helping people get freed up from what's holding them back so they can be built into who God's made them to be. We'll talk about that in the end, but just right before, because I think this is really valuable and something that in more of our recent and later years of relationship. So, I'd say Holly and I being married anywhere between the last, 3 to 4 years here. Something that I've been so thankful for and so respect you and Tanya for has been your journey and process with us around how when there's something that we haven't seen eye to eye, or there could be something that we haven't seen eye to eye,
right? Yeah.
Or there feels like there could be some relational tension or conflict or misunderstanding. How you guys have not only embraced, but also invited conversation to help create connection and clarity so that there aren't these, because from the perspective that I have generationally, I have not seen a great model in a lot of families, older generations, etc., about dealing with conflict well. A lot of it's just like, we don't talk about it, we suppress it, we move on and pretend it doesn't happen. And I've always been a person who's like, what do you mean? Of course it's happening, and let's help walk through it so we can be healthy, right?
Sure.
And, again, I know just because of how many people I have relationships with and their families, like there's so much missed opportunity of healthy connection with their families because of the lack of emotional, spiritual maturity to walk through difficult things like that. And yet I would just say over the last few years, the way you guys have embraced or invited moments where we might have something has been a significant part why we still have the relationship that we have. Where I know so many people's relationships are torpedoed because of an offense or whatever. And it can be little things, it can be big things. But I just so respect the way you guys have handled that with us, or it's not just us and you, it's also like, hey guys, we love you a lot unconditionally, but man, it affects us negatively when this happens, or you don't do this, and so your willingness to be honest with us, I so respect, because for me, that means you want a healthy relationship longer, and not just to preserve the temporary peace of a moment. And so I just don't see that very often. And that's been a journey for us, but anything from your seat that you would say for maybe even from our experience, but also for the younger person or the, father-in-law or mother-in-law out there going like, maybe they're sitting right now on some unresolved bitternesses or offenses that they are like, not going to do it. That you would say, what would your perspective be to help encourage them to be in maybe a healthier potential place with their relationship? So
just like marriage, it's going to happen, right? The good days and bad days,
unavoidable.
Right? So because you have all this going on, and so what happens is we project our will on our children's relationship, right?
Sure.
We project our will on our children, and they're all different personalities. Right. So you're a different personality.
Right.
And so Tanya and I are a different personality than we were separate, right? So we combined. But we are such a blessing together. Like she's amazing. Right. She has taught me so many things. She's guided me. She's directed me. But I will tell you this, we weren't good at what you just said. We weren't. For the first couple of years, we weren't good at that. We would sit back and observe because we were taught in my generation to just let them go through it, let them work through it, right?
Sure.
And so could that be healthy? Sometimes, maybe not. But there's a young pastor who actually taught us how to do what you just said. His name is Chase Merrell. You are the best example. You really are. You're amazing. So mostly, you are an amazing young man. You're so wise. You're so amazing. You taught us to go deep, okay? To get inside and be open. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because of you. No, because you.
I appreciate
You're
that.
the one that set the example.
Yeah.
So that we would do the right thing.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Because you wrestled with Ollie on some things, right?
Yeah.
You've wrestled with yourself on some things.
Yeah.
You've watched us, and we kind of hear through the, because we all talk back and forth. There's like, Holly will be our earpiece to the family just because she's our daughter, right?
Sure. Totally.
And you're the earpiece to your family side because you're the son. You're able to share more, direct more.
Sure.
You'll say, hey, here's what we're experiencing. Here's what we're going through. And, I may not say all the stuff going on, but you kind of get a feeling.
Yeah.
But thank goodness those are communicated.
Yeah.
And so those are important because that's why families torpedo is because they don't talk.
Totally.
Just like a marriage, right? Yep. So I look at the in-law relationship now as I do as a marriage, right?
Yeah.
So it's got to be, it's not perfect, but you agreed that this was going to be something that you would support, and you stay in it and hang in there, right? So, and that is what you did for us. Yeah. So thank you.
You're welcome, and I appreciate.
We're growing because of it.
Yeah, but
so we listen.
but I can't gloss over the fact that even if I did exactly what I've done or have done and am doing, it takes the receiving side to be open, right? To go from, and that's the thing I'm going, like, I have acknowledged that it's so rare for let's just take Tanya and you, right? To go from the generation that they did experience, not maybe a lot of that, right, to then them themselves, even if they have somebody trying to be open enough, and at some level, like humble enough to go, we'd be open to seeing it in a different way, or growing maybe where we don't feel like we've had as much experience. Because it doesn't matter if the soil is not right. Mm-hmm. If the soil is not prepared in a way that can receive the seeds deposited, then it doesn't matter how good the seeds are, right? The soil has to be in that place. So, and you guys, the soil of your hearts has been in a healthy, and it's because you're following Jesus. I know it's because God's will is more of your priority than anything else. And you are people that are constantly putting yourself in environments that could till that ground, but it cannot be understated that there's just as much the receiving as it is the sowing, and that is why I think we're sitting here today. It's the fact that you guys with us along this journey too. It's just been we've not given up. We've not just pushed things aside. Man, you've pursued intentional, selfless, sacrificial moments, joy, and engaging, inviting. I mean, all of those things are a part of the ingredients that I think brings so much joy to this relationship that has so much more to go.
That's awesome.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I said in the beginning, like I already feel like I'm already, my cup is already way overflowing compared to what I deserve to have the mother and father-in-law relationship, and the grandpa and Mimi that love my kids the way that they do, that I don't have to go, I like, and I love my mom and dad like immensely. Like they're the best people in the world.
Absolutely.
To me.
Agreed.
But to go in moments where I'm thinking about my kids, I'm going like, I get just as excited about grandpa and Mimi getting to come and love on them as I do my own mom and dad. Yeah. I just don't know how many people get to feel that way.
Sure.
What a blessing. What a privilege.
So I agree with that. And I think there's a couple things that happened in the conversation, and we had that one time recently to say, hey, listen, if there's something getting in the way, right, in our relationship that is getting in the way of your relationship in any way, right? So we want the best for you. Right. And so that was something that just came out of the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Was what do we need to do to support you and make it better? What can we do more of or less of, right? To where that open communication, because that is where the benefit comes from.
Yeah.
And just that is really the benefit, just like a marriage.
Yeah.
So
it's a great picture. It's a great metaphor. Yeah.
And it's helped us being open to that, right? Yeah. So it's pursuing that. So saying, hey, listen, we would want to make it better, whatever it takes to make your family happy, healthy.
Yeah.
How do we participate in that, right?
Yeah.
And we love it that we feel welcome. So that's something people need to know is, please, even though there may be, everybody's like, this little weird quirkiness, whatever it is, from whatever in-law there is, bring them in, bring them close, because we're not perfect. None of us are. Right. Love on it. Just, you got to see people through the eyes of Jesus. Every moment has got to be, right? Having those meals together have been fantastic lately, right?
Yeah.
Just sitting around the table together, just like Jesus said. Just have the meal, break bread, spend time together, be family together. Yeah. And it's awesome. Yeah. So I think, we're excited. We're excited for what you guys are doing, where your ministry is going. We are oh my gosh, there's some great things happening, Chase, for these moments. I'm saying all those years that you did Christian club in high school, you pursued Jesus. I mean, I'm watching an incredible growth take place right now. So proud of you.
Thank
really.
You.
Yeah. Proud to be one of 52, by the way.
Yeah.
Pretty big deal.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. What a privilege.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate it. Yeah. And I think just final thought around your life at the age that you're at now.
Yeah.
When you think back to, where you've been, but where you are. So maybe it's a present thing. Maybe it's something that you've seen yourself overcome, but just a significant area that you maybe felt like held you back, that you needed to get freed up from. to be who you were made to be. How did you overcome one of those things, or are you overcoming one of those things now?
Yeah, the one that we're really on our heart right now is serving. So getting back to the idea of serving. So Tanya and I are really good at doing a community in our community, right?
Yeah.
So we're out. Matter of fact, walking a dog is one of the best things ever. In the community, we're just known that you got to get out there and you got to get in the community and meet people. So I think that is the greatest thing ever. That way people know who you are and what's going on in the neighborhood. So let me tell you something. That is the community we're supposed to reach, right?
Yeah.
And by doing so, we actually built a Bible study with just saying, oh, you're Christian, you're Christian, you're Christian. Next thing you know, we have 10, 15, families in a neighborhood, right? And I know there's right now 6 or 7 in our small group within that neighborhood, right? And so those are really special things going on. But what I'm struggling with right now is serving, because I always believe we're supposed to serve, because why serving in a church? That is when you get more engaged. One of the favorite thing we used to do was the church we'd go to. It was a good-sized church right there in Rockland. Was we would get so excited to go to church because we knew there was probably 10 to 15 couples or people or somebody that we are going to see common, right?
Right.
We want to see those people because it's part of our core, right?
Right.
And we're excited about that. And so once sometimes a church gets too big and you may not see those people because there's 2 or 3 services, right? And you start going, oh, I didn't see those people this time. Oh, I didn't see those people this time. It kind of gets less exciting sometimes to be there, because you're like, well, I'm gonna. That's the only time I can meet up with those people, right? They're not in our small group, right? They're not. We see them at church. So I really like what you do with that 3-minute kind of talking and meeting people, connection break. Yeah, that's a really good process, and people are blessed by it, right?
Yeah.
So. But also, same things happen is people come in the door and out the door, right? So I grew up as a pastor's son, and I watched it happen, right? I watched people come in, some scatter as fast as they could, and some hang around, right? And talk. But the thing I'm struggling with right now is serving back at the church level, because there's been some things that take place at certain churches that we've attended that, like, I just don't know why they don't understand. That is almost like keeping us walking back in the door.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And some of those pieces are the multiple services, the size of the church, and also just not seeing the people we used to know. Things change, right? So it's kind of it's an internal thing. It's a personal thing, right?
Sure.
Because usually if there's something going wrong, it's internal. But I really believe that just like building projects is serving, that is where my heart is. So that's one of my gifts and are. So so servanthood and leadership. Yeah. And so that's the piece I'm missing right now, and I'm missing it because some of the churches are just too large.
Sure.
That there's some things taking place that we don't get a chance to serve or get to know everybody, right?
Sure. It makes it really challenging to figure out how and where you fit and can get connected.
It does. Yeah. And so it's almost like, well, there's so many people, they should have it taken care of, or when do I start in? So so my opportunity is to just step out and pursue and get back in and find. We're actually a really good church now that we just got a phenomenal Bible teaching. We just love the teaching that's taking place.
That's awesome.
And so we watch your church on Sundays. We love that. See what's going on up here. There's nothing more awesome than seeing your daughter on stage and your son-in-law. So it's pretty neat to see. I'm really proud of what you guys have done and everything else. So we do online church that way. We've done online church lately, but our thing that we got to do is we got to get back to the basics of getting to round the flock, right? And so that's what I need to pursue. That's what I need to fix, and that's what I've got to really get through and process through that. So
that's really good.
And we're choosing to go attend and then reach out and do that. And we've had some friends in our other Bible study who've left the mega church that have found that, done that, and they're like, it's rewarding as can be. Right? So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that, and I think a lot of people resonate with that and are walking in a similar challenge and opportunity in this season. And so I know that's going to encourage
since COVID, it's really changed, right?
Yeah,
so
it really has. Yeah.
It's easy to go online.
Yeah,
it's easy, and it's probably not the healthiest thing to do.
Sure,
but it's a nice option.
Sure,
right?
Yeah,
but it's I don't think we're getting the depth that we need.
Yeah,
and we're missing out.
It's not a substitute.
There's no relationship
for
with the TV
real
set,
connection
right?
and community. Yeah. Well, man, I just can't tell you how much I love you and respect you as a man, as a husband, as a dad, as a grandfather, father-in-law, and a friend. I think that's even something that I don't know. I knew I was going to get that gift when I got married.
Someone's blessed.
Like I could have a friendship with my father-in-law, and enjoy like getting to be with you in a way that makes me feel filled up like that. And continue to get excited about those opportunities to come in the future.
Maybe teach me to hunt someday.
Yeah. Let's go.
Worked on cars. Let's go hunting someday now.
Yeah. But bigger than all of that, it's the way that I watch you love our kids. And to know that my kids are going to have that kind of stamp on their heart forever about how their grandpa's going to be one of their heroes. You know, that they're going to get to sit in a setting like this someday and be like, oh yeah, with tears coming into their eyes, the way that they felt loved and invested in and connected to grandpa.
It's a blessing.
It's a gift. It's a gift that I can never pay for. But it means the world to Holly and I. And so thanks for being here, for investing in my life, for being a huge impact on me and who God's called me to be. What a joy to get to be your son-in-law.
Well, we're the most proud in-laws ever right now. So thank you for all you're doing. You betcha.
With that, until next time.
Yes.
See you later.